Hey guys, Phoenix Spring Tower here. So guys, this is going to be a different type of video. So in this video, what I'm going to do is we are going to do a story time. So it's going to be a cross between, stories and my personal experiences with spirit and with earthbound spirits. So it's going to be a cross between my real life stories and encounters, and it's also going to be a tutorial as well in terms of just different, me talking through different ways that you could protect yourself and protect your energies as well. So in terms of this, and I'm just going to do this, freehand and off the cuff. But before I go into any stories, just a little bit about myself, because I don't really talk about myself either in my bio or my description. I just tend to go into readings historically. But I'm an intuitive empath. I'm also claircognizant, and I'm clairaudient, and I'm clairsentient as well. So I'm a lot of clairs. So what that means is, by me being clairsentient, is that I know things. I just know stuff. If someone asks me a question, I'm just going to know the answer. And for me, the clarity with which I know things is as clear as you guys seeing this lighter on the table, or as clear as you guys seeing this ball. I just see things and know things like that. That's the best way I can find to describe it. I'm also clairaudient as well. So if I'm asking a question, if I'm tuning into something, I could hear a message or like someone saying it to me. So many times, like with my spirit guides, when I'm hearing things, I can hear things from them, either my spirit guides or other people's guides. I can usually hear messages or hear phrases. Sometimes I see phrases, or I could see a word as well. So that's where the clairvoyant comes in. Like, I could see things, I could see flashes of images or flashes into the future and so on. So that's a bit about myself. And from as long as I could remember, I've always been like that. I remember at a young age, for instance, being able to communicate with animals, being able to communicate with plants, being able to get energies of buildings and of environments. And when I hold something, or I am in the vicinity of something, and I could pick up the energies, I could get flashes in my mind as to what occurred in a particular place. What I used to be able to see is images of people who have passed on, but I never really communicated with people who've passed on. Well, from when I was younger, I could see images of them, but not really communicate with the dead or be a medium, so to speak. So I never really had that per se, but I could see them, and I could and I could pick up intuitively their energies. And I've been able to, because many times when you go over to the other side, there are lots of ways people could communicate. They could communicate either through words. People on the other side could communicate through images. People on the other side could also communicate through giving you a feeling, right? So many times it's the feeling that you get, and you really have to pause and translate that feeling into what someone is actually trying to say and the message that they are trying to convey. So I remember one of my first encounters of me being able to do this was quite early on, and it was a baptism by fire was my first encounter actually. And I remember actually, but I think, how old was I? I think it was about 6 or 7. And I remember one night I was lying down on my bed. I had a huge double bed, and I was lying down on my bed ready to go to sleep. Or I think I'd lightly fallen to sleep, or I'd woken up. And I felt as if someone was on the bed laying next to me. So I got up, and I thought it was my dad. So I called out his name. But there was something about this image, like the person who was lying down on the other side of me felt really heavy. It felt as if they were weighing down the bed, and they were also very long as well. And I remember calling out, and the person was lying down on their back, and they were very still. And I realized, because of the shape and outline of the person, that it wasn't my father at all. It wasn't anyone I know. This was a stranger that was lying on my bed and was weighing, like, I literally could have rolled over to them. They were weighing down the bed that much. And I remember at that point being absolutely petrified by this and not wanting to move whatsoever. And I remember closing my eyes as a little young one. I think I was about 7 or 8 actually, and closing my eyes and just praying for this thing to go away. And I did not want to move whatsoever. And I remember it was after that encounter as a child, and this may be too much information, but I remember it was from that encounter as a child that my bedwetting actually started, because I was, like, the fear was such that I couldn't move, or I didn't want to go to the bathroom. I never wanted to go to the bathroom at night. It's also the reason why, even up to this day, I'm not a heavy sleeper. I'm a pretty light sleeper, so I could usually pick up on things during the night. I sleep very lightly, and it was just from that encounter. I also remember another encounter, and it was, I think I was a bit older at this point, where an energy, something similar to that initial male energy that I saw, tried to smother me with a pillow. And I remember the pillow going over my face. I'm trying to fight against this person, but they were really big, really strong, smothering me with a pillow. And I remember trying or pretending to play dead in order to get them to stop. So I remember letting my body go limp. And then it stopped. So those were a couple of my real life initial encounters with spirits, particularly earthbound spirits as well. In terms of me being able to see things and becoming clairaudient and clairvoyant and so on, I remember another first encounter where I realized I could see people or animals who had passed on. I remember once my neighbor had a dog actually, and I hadn't seen the dog for a little while in our backyard. This is when I was growing up in Trinidad. I hadn't seen the neighbor's dog. The neighbor's dog will always come into my backyard, and I would play with the dog and so on. And we knew the neighbor very well, etc. But I noticed that for a couple of days I hadn't seen the neighbor's dog at all. So I was in my backyard and I saw the neighbor's dog. So I called out to the dog. I was just like, "Hey boy, come. And the dog looked strange. Like, the dog looked as though his hair was wet and matted, and it looked as though it was swaying from side to side and walking really slow. So we had a very big back garden growing up in Trinidad. So I was on one side of the garden calling the dog, and the dog was on the other side by the wall of the other neighbor's house. So I remember the dog looking at me, and then the dog slowly turned and began to walk as though it was approaching, the other corner between our house and the other neighbor's wall. And the dog began walking from side to side, swaying really slowly, and then went round the corner. So I wanted to play with the dog. I hadn't seen my neighbor's dog, in quite a long time. So I ran, to the corner where the dog was going. And from the time I reached the corner, literally I saw the dog go round the corner, and I went towards the dog, and literally that dog vanished in front of me. As the dog turned a corner, I was just a few steps, I ran towards the dog. I could see the dog going, was halfway through our house and our front gate, because the dog had walked around the corner. The dog vanished in front of my eyes, and I was just like, what? I was so stunned and so floored, and I remember thinking to myself, I just saw a ghost. That was my first encounter, seeing a ghost. I remember another time I was in my bedroom and I was cleaning, and I felt that there was a sensation behind me, and I turned and I saw my mother standing at the door looking at me. But there was something strange about my mother's, like they had an outline, like a hue or a light coming from them, and a light coming from their clothes as well. And then I looked really closely, but it looked as though this woman's hair was different. It looked like my mother, but it wasn't my mother, so to speak. So I called out and I said, hi mummy, how are you? Is there something that you want? But the voice wouldn't respond to me. And the voice just looked at me really intently and then just turned and walked out the door and turned the corner. I didn't follow, I just thought it was strange and I continued doing what I was doing. But this image, as I said, the outline was like a luminous, bright, white light outline. And the clothes, like this woman was wearing like an orange and white tie-dye shift dress. And the orange was really bright and the white on the dress was really bright, almost like a luminescent color, right? So the woman turned around, who I looked like my mother, but wasn't quite my mother. So I thought, oh, you look a bit strange, but did you do something with your hair? Didn't know. Woman turned around the corner and literally continued doing whatever I was doing in my room. I think I was cleaning my room. Actually, I had a wardrobe and I had my shoes and my clothes were hung out there. So I was in my wardrobe, which was near the window, I know, and my mother's door was, the door where my mother appeared was on the opposite side of the room. Literally about 10 to 15 minutes later, my mum came in wearing the same dress with her hair combed back, but different. And I spoke to this and I said, Mummy, did you come in a few minutes ago? And she said no. So literally I'm speaking to this person. This person is speaking back at me, but this person looked like the image of someone who was there 15 minutes before. Really strange. And I just thought, oh goodness, I think I saw a future vision of what was going to happen. And that was my first encounter, again, in terms of being very conscious and aware that I could see visions of the future, or I could see visions of things that are coming up, like a flash of things. And that was where I began to engage in being clairvoyant, if you like. But it's really interesting that because I began seeing these things at such an early age, when people hear about earthbound spirits or see them, they tend to be quite scared of them. But for me, it's something that I've never been scared of because I've seen it at such an early age. It really doesn't bother me. And what's quite interesting about that is that when I moved from Trinidad and I came up to this country as well, the second house we lived in and moved to was also haunted. It was haunted with the spirit of a little girl. So there'll be a little girl that will be running up and down the stairs. And the thing is with this little girl or children running up and down the stairs is that everyone knew that they were there. So it wasn't just a matter of me seeing them. Other members of my family could see and hear them as well, just running up and down down the stairs. Even people who would come, from Trinidad and visit us and stay with us would hear children running up and down the stairs. So many times people doubt and say, oh no, this can't be real, this has never happened before. Like, trust me, earthbound spirits are a thing and they are very much real. Either earthbound spirits, that's one category of them, and this is only something that came clear to me a couple of years back, there are also different parallel universes as well, and people can exist in different dimensions. And sometimes, like when this video is being filmed around Halloween, the veil between the two dimensions can get very thin, or you can have spaces in a building or in an area of the world like the Bermuda Triangle, etc., where the veil between different realities can be made very thin, right? So it could mean that people could see into your reality or you could see into theirs, all right? And it's from a very early age, I kind of had an awareness that this was a thing. But I remember watching the film Sliding Doors, if anyone remembers it. It was a very old film with Gwyneth Paltrow, which was about this young woman living in London, and the train doors close and there is one reality of her missing getting on a train, and then there's another reality of her just managing to get on the train. And it's about these two parallel existences that Gwyneth Paltrow has in this film, and how they are very different and how the paths are very different. It's sort of similar to that. If you get the opportunity to watch it, I know it's Gwyneth Paltrow and she tends to do the same type of acting, but if you manage to watch it, it's sort of what I'm describing when it comes to parallel worlds and parallel existences. So you could have people travel between these parallel existences, and many times they're not aware that they're even doing it as well. So you could have that, but that is different in terms of having parallel worlds and existences. So you could exist in these parallel worlds. There could be different versions of you, number one. Number two, there could also be different dimensions. So I could be sitting in this moment and operating at the very same time. There could be another dimension with something completely different going on. And many times when our loved ones pass on, and our loved ones always say we're safe, we're happy, or they always go to a version of themselves when they were at their best and when they were at their prime, that's the dimension that they've moved on to. And many times people who've moved on have explained it as just stepping over a veil, just stepping from one existence into another, stepping from one world into another, where they continue to go on having their experiences, you know. So many times when I receive criticism for my videos, and people are always arguing against whether someone is intuitive, whether someone's clairvoyant, clairaudient, can see the future and all of that. That's why many times I say that there are many different futures that are out there, many different possibilities that are available. Part of this work is a matter of providing guidance or providing assistance when someone is stuck, but many times I don't view it as people being stuck. Many times it's viewed as people know the answer, they know where they're going, they're just tuning in to get confirmation as to whether what they're thinking is right or not. That's how I view this work as. So many times, like, there's so many different parallel realities that are happening right now. Like, I could choose to continue talking in this video and I could upload it and you could view it. I could choose to complete this video and not upload it, and that would lead to another reality. Or I could choose to publish this video and upload it and then take it down. That's another parallel reality, and you could go down that journey. But the starting point and the genesis of all these different realities are our thoughts, our emotions, our choices, and then our subsequent actions. So if you listen to my readings, that's why I always talk about your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your intentions. In terms of performing your action, what intention do you have? Is it a pure intention, or is it a not so pure intention? That's why I always talk about intentions and your choices and actions and the importance of them, right? Now, this brings me into something else. Now, when it comes to earthbound spirits, when it comes to spirits in terms of your spirit guides, there are also guardian angels as well. All of them operate on different existences and different planes of existence, and all of them have their own unique and individual function. It sort of comes to the reason why, when we have life, and in this life and having this existence and having this experience on this earth, you would also hear me say, for those of you who are very familiar with my readings, that we are spiritual beings inhabiting a body. And the reason why we inhabit this body is for us to sense and experience ourselves, right? And we experience ourselves in our bodies through having interactions with other people, or through observing interactions that other people, or observing other people's life as well, or observing other people's interactions also, and observing the decisions other people make, and observing other people's experiences, right? That is why many times when you see, especially when I do celebrity readings, I always view celebrity readings as a spirit guides looking in on people of notoriety, seeing their experiences, how they operate in those experiences, and what we can learn and what we could pick up from their experiences. Many times that message gets lost because people tend to get caught up in the sensationalist gossip element of celebrity readings, which I appreciate. It's fine, but there is a deeper layer and a deeper message through me doing celebrity readings. And at the crux of it, that deeper message and root is all about observing how someone else is experiencing their lives and learning from that and being able to pick up lessons from that. That's quite important. That's why we're here, you know, to experience ourselves as a spiritual being. That's what it's all about. And we get to truly experience ourselves as a spiritual being through situations, encounters, interactions, choices, actions, decisions. And when it comes to the different encounters and situations we have, yes, we have free will, as I mentioned before, in terms of key things happening at certain points in time, but through decisions, we make at certain points in time, but also in our timeline as well. There are certain fixed situations, fixed encounters that we have that sort of anchor us or anchor our experience to ensure that we get out of this lifetime what we aimed to get and achieve at the very beginning. That's another thing for you. Another element that I would say is, of course, past lives. We have past lives, we have future lives. Time is a man-made concept. Time is a concept that only occurs in the 3-dimensional plane and the 4th-dimensional plane. It doesn't occur beyond that. And time enables us to make sense of the present, make sense of what's coming up, and make sense of what's gone past. But in other dimensions, time doesn't exist, right? So that's another reason why we can have parallel universes. That's another reason why when our loved ones pass on, or when we have earthbound spirits as well, many times for them it seems as if like they don't have any concept of time. Like they could watch us and they could watch us pass through and change and transition, but they don't have any concept of that. So time doesn't exist in this for them. Time only exists, I'm saying, in the 3D dimension and 4D dimension, but in other dimensions in space, time is not a concept as such. What else do I want to say with this? Now this brings me, because I don't want this to be a long video, it's just me being a rambling sort of video. What I wanted to come to is, for the second part of this, is particularly talking about protection, healing, and clearing. Many times that I've done readings, and since I've started this channel about a year ago, I've been blessed to have just shy of 100, tarot readings, Akashic record readings, and so on that I've done. Now, and what people always ask for is, they always say, oh, can I have healing? Oh, do you know how to clear this? Or someone's put a negative spirit on me. Do you know what to do about this? And many times when I hear people ask these things, what I've picked up is that people use terms that they're not quite familiar with, or many times people use terms or ask for things and they're not really sure what they're asking for. So to wrap up this video, in the second half of this, what I wanted to go into was exactly what the difference is between clearing, healing, protection, and just walk through different ways in which you can do that for yourselves. Okay. So one of the things that people tend to ask for a lot is healing. Whenever anyone encounters something in their lives, let's say they've gone through something that's been traumatic, let's say the end of a relationship, a close relationship, someone passing forward, or they've experienced some other type of trauma, people tend to want to ask for healing. Oh yeah, could you give me healing for this situation? I've encountered this situation when I grew up. Could you give me healing for that? Now, healing tends to, many times people don't know what they actually mean by that. They tend to think of it as healing being, I went through a traumatic event or situation, you just do something for me that could help take the pain away, and then that would be fine and I'm good to go. Let's take that a level deeper. When we talk about healing in the strict sense of what the term actually means, when we've encountered a situation that has affected our chakras, to put our chakras out of alignment, or when we've encountered a situation, a circumstance, or we have experienced something that makes us feel out of alignment, that's where we are in our lower vibration. So we exist, we're energy, we're all energy, right? And we could exist in various vibrations. We can have high vibration and we can have low vibration energy. The high vibration energy is everything is love, everything is happiness, everything is compassion. That's the high vibration energy. A low vibration energy is apathy, it's anger, it's hatred, it's being disoriented, it's sadness. That's low vibration energy. So when we find ourselves being in that low vibration energy, we could have problems sleeping, we could have anxiety, we could have we always find that we could be a magnet for bad situations just being attracted to us, happening again and again and again. That's a sign that you're in a low vibration. That's a sign that something is out of alignment. Okay, so many times someone comes in wanting healing. That's what they want to get out of. They just want that experience of being in that low vibration place to disappear, right? So they ask for healing. Now, one of the things, many times people ask me to do healing for them, and healing is something that I can do. And one of the ways I could do it is either through chakra alignment. I could do healings either through, getting advice from tarot. And when I use tarot, or getting advice from tarot, or channeling spirit guide messages in order to understand and get to the root of what a situation is. So there are a number of different ways. So chakra realignment, Reiki healing, chakra, Reiki, is there any others that I know? Chakra, Reiki, karma alignment as well, but that's coming into clearing, which is very similar but different, and I'll come to that in a moment. Also, other elements of healing which people tend to discount is going and seeing a therapist or going and seeing a doctor. So the best way to view healing, I view it as a triangle of your spiritual self, your physical self, and your emotional and mental self. So many times when you're healing, and many times people say, oh yeah, I'm coming to you for healing. If someone has the wrong understanding or misunderstanding of what healing is, I tend not to deliver that healing. Because the reason being is that many times if you're setting someone up for failure, or someone has an expectation that doesn't match the reality of what healing is, okay? And healing many times takes a lot of work. It takes work on the other person's part who's delivering that healing, but it also takes work on your part. And by work on your part, i.e. if I'm asking for healing, that is, there's a lot of work that I need to do towards my healing. And if I pick up that someone is not willing to do the work towards their healing, I don't do it. What do I mean by doing work towards your healing? Okay, it means being able to face what the situation is. It means having the courage to face what the root, not just having the courage, but having the ability and having that awareness to face what is the root for that low vibration energy, and wanting to change it. Okay, many times you go through encounters in our lives and we will go through the trauma, but we are not always willing to either revisit the trauma, or we're not always willing to get to the root of the reason why the trauma happened in the first place, or to make peace with it, or to understand the genesis of it. And understanding the genesis of it, or the reason why something happened, could take us down a number of different roads. It could take us to what is written in our Akashic records. It could take us into our past lives. It could take us into ancestral curses. It could take us into something we've designated we wanted to experience in this life. It could take us down a path of, yep, it is the other person's fault, but what other responsibilities do we take in this as well? It takes making sense of it, in that there is no reason. Like, many times people could say that the reason why something happened is all your making, and I think that's a very flippant and damaging thing to say. I think many times when something happens in your life, it's having the courage to go places, to make peace, to have realizations from that encounter that you could use to make you even stronger and to lift your vibration. Okay, so all of that is all part and parcel of healing. Unless you are willing to really look within yourself and really face that pain, and there are good elements of it, there are bad elements, unless you're willing to really go down that road to face that pain, healing cannot happen. So that's part of the reason why many times people come and they say they want healing, but they don't want to face these things. They just expect you to wave a wand and for it to go away. And if I know someone is coming at it from that perspective, I don't give the healing. So what are different types of healings you could have? Well, briefly, as I mentioned before, Reiki is an example of it. You could have someone, and with Reiki, you could put your hands on someone and do healing that way. There's also it's not just Reiki, but it's also possible to put your hands on someone and transmit a healing energy to that person, that body-to-body contact, both of which I do. But now that we're in the world that we're in, with all the restrictions and so on going on, Reiki and holy fire Reiki experience, although they can happen over the internet or over the World Wide Web, they can happen remotely. But someone has to be in a place where, from my experience, where someone has received attunement for that energy and they're open to it as well. Another element of healing, as I said, the Western conventions that we know, going to see a doctor, going to see a therapist, that's particularly for emotional and our body healing, and for our spiritual healing, that is the Reiki, the hand-on healing that I was talking about, and also through tarot, if you are asking and channeling messages, if you know the right questions and so on to ask of your spirit guides and of your higher self. Spirit guides and higher selves is something that it's its own that's another conversation entirely. I touched on them earlier, but I won't go into further detail. So that's healing in a nutshell. Now, very partnering with healing, almost the sister and cousin of healing, you have energy clearing. Energy clearing is also related to protection, but let me go into energy clearing first. So with energy clearing, what you particularly have is, well, again, if you're in a low vibration energy, but many times we could want to be in a higher vibration, but the circumstances or the people around us or the circumstances that we find ourselves in is low vibration. So many times you could be a high vibration in a low vibration setup or situation, and those people around you impact your energy. Scientology goes into this quite a bit, actually, and they go into it in the right way, and at least as correctly as I've ever seen it be defined. Scientology defines the people who could be low vibration and the people's energy that could affect you. They define it as suppressive personalities or antisocial personalities. That's the way Scientology's defined it. What that means is, if you find, let's say that you are a high vibration, like your resting vibration state is high vibration, but your partner or your parent or your boss has a resting lower vibration state. Let's say they're always in a vibration of envy, for instance. You're in a vibration of happiness, they're in a vibration of envy. That person's low, and you are around them all the time. Either you live with them, you work with them, you tend to have a lot of interactions with them. It becomes very difficult to stay in your high vibration state when you have that low vibration, when you're in the vicinity of that low vibration energy. That low vibration energy tends to be attracted and wants to suck energy from your high vibration. So literally what that could mean, high vibration, low vibration, you then get sucked to this low vibration place, right? So many times that is why in Scientology they talk about suppressive personalities and staying away from suppressive personalities, because once your energy or your tone gets brought down to their level, that's where you know, when you, what does Michelle Obama say, when they go low you go high. It's as if being in their energy or their vicinity prevents you from going high, because they're always dragging you into a negative situation, a negative encounter. It begins to affect your health. It begins to affect a lot of things. So when you are naturally high vibration and when you have low vibration in your energy, what you need to do is clear that. Do a clearing. So a clearing could be, and this is where, as I have this, this is sage that I generally use, and I use sage particularly, you know, before and after I do readings, to just clear the space of whatever energies were there before, to then neutralize it to what the baseline energy of myself and of my environment is. So sage is particularly very good. The best sort of clearing energy you could have is to just be away from low vibration people. And that many times it's easier said than done, especially when you work with them. Many times it's reducing the contact, reducing the interaction to as minimal as possible. Even when you feel, oh yeah, I can let my guard down against someone, they seem in a good mood today. That's exactly what they want. For you to be you let your guard down, they get in there, and before you know it, you're just dragged into some other confusion, miscommunication, and so on. That is energy. That is how people's low vibration can affect your energy. Using sage or using Palo Santo and clearing yourselves, particularly if you're working from home, is a very good way of protecting yourselves from this energy. Keeping away from people is another really good way of protecting yourself and clearing that energy as well. Another really good way of clearing and protecting yourselves from other people's negative vibration energy are crystals or healing stones. So for instance, this one particularly, I was working in a very toxic environment a few months ago, and using this wand, and I would just wave it over myself, and I would have this wand over my computer because I was working from home, and I would particularly keep it on my desk next to this healing crystal. And anytime I was in a really difficult meeting or difficult conversation, I always had these crystals at hand. Especially with this clearing one, I think this is a selenite. Oh, I may be wrong. The name of this is just escaped me. But I felt that this was really very effective. I could literally feel this. I'm even waving it now over myself, and I could feel this in my energy. There's a slight tingle in my energy field that this particularly gives me. And it was actually quite good and quite effective. So the reason why I have the lighter here is that you have the Palo Santo or you have your sage, and you basically light it. And I usually say cleanse my energy, cleanse my space, and you could develop a mantra that particularly means something for you, that would be powerful for you, that would be impactful for you. Another way of doing clearing as well are clearing baths also. So when it comes to baths, there are a number. Now, baths are the Orisha way, the Spanish Catholic way, and where else did I pick up baths from? Healing baths. This is where you use a lot of bush, you use a lot of herbs in these baths. Yeah, those are the main schools of spiritualism and religious philosophy and teachings that I've learned from, but you could give yourselves baths as well. I'll leave you guys to research healing baths. But the really good thing with baths though is that, and also with baths or with teas as well, and the types of healing teas that you drink, fennel particularly comes to mind, is that when it comes to your physical body, and each of us are quoted with a vibration of or energy fields, is that these baths and the smoking outs and what you ingest in terms of the teas could not only clear you out internally in terms of your internal body, but they could also help clear the energy fields that are around your body and in your environment as well. That's why they're so effective. Is there anything else I wanted to say about that? let's go on to protection, because I don't want this to be very long. Now, protection is what you can do to fend off this low vibration from coming in your direction in the first place. Protection is what you could also use if someone, many times people walk around with a spirit guide team around them. Most times spirit guides are actually very positive and they're high vibration and they want the best for you. Some people could walk around with low vibration spirit guide teams, or some people could work to invoke low vibration spirits and put those on other people. Particularly with the voodoo culture, with the Orisha culture, that's how I know of placing negative spirit guides on other people. I know that through my knowledge and of that. So for instance, for me, when I was talking about negative spirits, when I was growing up at the very beginning, what was happening to me, and I only found it out about a decade later, was that my grandmother had purposely sent negative spirit guides to me in order to put a clamp on my intuitive abilities and empathic skills and so on. So before I even knew that I was an intuitive or clairaudient or a clairpath or even a medium, before I knew that, I had a family member trying to destroy it. So what it meant is that before I even came into my full power as a medium or clairaudient, I had to learn protection and I had to learn healing. So I kind of learned things backwards. Like when I talk about my skills, my skill is really protection, because I've had to protect myself basically from negative thoughts, negative spirit guides and so on that could be sent. Now, this brings me on to another important point. Many times when you have protection, and in terms of what people could send to you, people could send negative spirits towards you, yes, but two as well. People could also send negative intentions towards you also. And if enough people have those negative intentions towards you, if you believe in it, then it could have a dent and it could have an impact and it could bring down your vibration. So what I'm going to be describing here is how you do that protection. Now that protection could be part clearing, and I talked about clearing before, and that protection could also be finding a way in terms, because like attracts like, right? So if there is something in and everyone has their good element, everyone has their bad element. We are yin and yang. We will all hold good karma, we'll all hold bad karma. Everyone has it. Okay, so many times when negative intentions and negative spirit guides are sent towards you, there needs to be something that they could hook into. So let's say if you have an insecurity about speaking various languages, speaking different languages, for example, and that is your hidden insecurity about you, and that insecurity comes from a place of feeling that you're not a good enough communicator. Right? Let's say you have that secret inside feeling. If someone then has an intention that they want you to mess up at something, let's say you had to give a presentation or you had to give it a paper or a dissertation or whatever, and someone's placing that negative intention towards you that you mess up. If their intention, if their vibration is strong enough of hatred, of wanting you to mess up, if that is strong enough, and they send it and they channel it to you, they can actually, and if you believe, because if you have that insecurity about being a good communicator in the first place, their negative intention can have an effect and can have an impact on you, right? So this is where I'm talking about protection, and protection being important. Now protection, and so that's just an example. I won't go into too much detail because this is coming up to be a very long video and I don't want it to be long. But this is where, in terms of protection, everything that I talked about before, from clearing and from healing, that is where all of those come together. So in terms of protection, in terms of how you protect yourself, of course, the Palo Santo, the sage sticks, using your crystals, prayer. Prayer is the most powerful type of protection that you can get. And also constantly working on yourself to being the best person that you could be. Now, I know that sounds like fluffy talk, but let's dig into that statement a little bit. What I'm saying there is that by being the best person that you can be, it's being fully cognizant of your good high vibration qualities and being very cognizant and taking responsibility and accountability for those elements of ourselves that aren't so good and holding them up in balance next to each other, and working on the elements of ourselves that need to be worked on and getting to the genesis and getting to the reason why we have that darker shadow element of our personalities. By acknowledging and coming face to face with our shadow self, with our subconscious self, with how we hold ourselves back, with how we are potentially sabotaging ourselves, by fully acknowledging that and making peace with that, that gives you the power, that puts you in the driving seat, and that enables and ensures that people are not able to take that power from you. And to wrap up, I'll leave you with this example of what I mean. Many times you have people who say, I would get in front of this story before it hits the press or before it's released, for example. And what that is an example of, in a nutshell, is someone taking their power back, so someone else doesn't have that power over them. They're getting ahead of the story. Many times, if there's anything that we are ashamed, in terms of our negative subconscious self, if there's anything that we are ashamed of, if there's anything that we don't want to come to the light of day, if there is anything that we prefer to keep hidden, if there's an element of ourselves we don't want anyone to see, chances are if we focus our attention in those areas, then we could start uncovering what our shadow subconscious elements are. If we start doing that work and come to terms with that work, that is the best protection against anyone coming in and placing anything on us. Now, in terms of protection work, there's a lot. I mean, it's so vast, especially from the voodoo side of things. It's so vast that I can't even begin to tell you. Getting, protection, having your own protection bubbles, doing your own spell work, doing your own candle work, having baths and the different things that you could put into baths, the different herbs you could drink, binding spells, return to sender spells. I mean, there's so many different things you could do, but I'm not going into all of that. I just wanted to, just give you guys a bit of an introductory insight, especially as it's around Halloween, of spirit guides, earthbound spirits, negative spirits, examples of them, and also going into protection and cleansing and healing, and also saying, very importantly, to wrap up, that many times we tend to be scared or afraid of spirits, and many times spirits coming for you, they tend to be rare, but they do happen, especially earthbound spirit hauntings and so on. It can happen. But most of the time, it's a matter of other people's intentions or other people sending things towards you. That is what particularly brings down our vibration. That is more what we need protection, clearing, and healing from. I'll leave that with you. I'll try to timestamp this if you guys watch this to the end. Thank you for staying through towards the end and with me. If you guys would like more of these, me going into further detail as to protection, healing, spirits, different parallel universes, different energy vibrations that surround us, our emotions and our ego being the window to the physical world, or the doorway to the physical world, and the spirit, just let me know, and I'm happy to do further freestyle videos like this on that. Okay guys, I'm gonna leave it here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.